The air in room 21B smelled like weak bleach and quiet sadness. Rosie McPherson was folding her mother's laundry, a small, kind act in a place that had forgotten warmth. Her mother, Evelyn, slept in the recliner, her chest rising in fragile little sighs. Rosie tucked the blanket around her shoulders and reached for a stack of old magazines on the bedside table. That's when she saw it, a dark blue folder. Out of place. She wasn't snooping. She just thought it was another stack of bills. But when she opened it, the first page made her blood run cold. It was a power of attorney document. It gave one person full control over her mother's house, her bank accounts, her pension. And that person wasn't Rosie. It was her husband, Leland McPherson. Her hand froze on the paper. She stared at the bottom line. The signature, Evelyn Reed. Smooth, confident. But Rosie knew her mother's handwriting. After the stroke, Evelyn could barely hold a pen. This wasn't her mother's signature. This was a lie. Crime. The date, 3 days after her mother's stroke. 3 days after Evelyn lost the ability to move, speak, or sign anything. Rosie's throat tightened. Leland had sat by her mother's bed, not to comfort her, but to steal from her. This is Rosie McPherson, 58 years old, a third-grade teacher from Charlotte, North Carolina. For 35 years she's been a wife, a mother, and the quiet strength that keeps a family running. She remembers birthdays, packs lunches, walks the dog, pays the bills on time. She believed she was living a good life. She believed Leland, her husband, was her partner. But now she sees it clearly. She wasn't his partner. She was his target. If you've ever trusted the wrong person, if you've ever been betrayed by someone who smiled while they broke your heart, then please take 1 second to tap that subscribe button. Because this isn't just a story. It's a voice for every good person who was lied to and left behind. When you subscribe, you tell Rosie she isn't alone. You tell every betrayed soul watching that justice still matters. Rosie's hands trembled as she slid the blue folder into her purse. She looked at her sleeping mother, a tiny woman who had worked in a textile factory for 40 years to earn every penny of that savings. Leland had promised to handle the nursing home paperwork. He had smiled, kissed Rosie's forehead and said, "Don't you worry your pretty head, I'll take care of everything." He had taken care of everything. He had taken it all. Now Rosie understood why he'd picked this nursing home. Sunny Pines. It was an hour away. Too far for her to drop in unannounced. It wasn't chosen for her mother's comfort. It was chosen for Leland's cover. The drive home was a blur. The bright green trees, the kids on bikes, the tidy lawns. It all looked unreal, like a play she didn't remember auditioning for. She pulled into the driveway of the home she'd loved for 30 years. Her house. Her safe place. But as she walked to the front door, a chill ran through her. If he could do this to her mother, what had he done to her? Leland was in the kitchen, humming. A big man with charm that filled a room. The kind people trusted instantly. He was chopping vegetables when he saw her. "Hey, sweetheart," he said, smiling without looking up. "How's your mom?" The knife in his hand gleamed under the kitchen light. Rosie felt sick. The man she was looking at was a stranger. "She's just tired," she managed. Her voice didn't sound like her own. He nodded. "That's a shame. Dinner's almost ready. Go wash up." He didn't see her hands shaking. He didn't see the rage building behind her eyes. He just saw Rosie, the soft wife, the simple teacher. He didn't realize she'd already changed. He didn't realize she was now dangerous. He stole from a sick old woman. He lied to his wife for decades. He thought she'd never know. But Leland forgot one simple truth. The quietest person in the room is often the one planning your downfall. He thought he was taking everything. He didn't know she was about to take it all back. Stay with us. Because the end of this story isn't just justice. It's poetry. That night, Rosie lay stiff in their bed, pretending to sleep. She listened to his breathing. Confident. The sound used to comfort her. Now it made her skin crawl. At 2 a.m. she slipped out of bed. Barefoot. Silent. Downstairs she stopped at his office door. It was always locked. "Private business, honey," he'd say. But Rosie had a key. She'd hidden one years ago, back when she still believed him. She slid it into the lock. Blick. The sound was loud in the sleeping house. She turned on the computer. Password screen. The password was her birthday. Her birthday. A slap in the face disguised as convenience. She logged in, opened his bank files. And there it was. Her mother's savings. Her teacher's pension. Their joint account. The house. Remortgaged twice. He had drained everything. But the last folder stopped her cold. It was titled Anya. She clicked. Photos appeared. A young woman, barefoot on a beach, laughing, wearing Rosie's grandmother's diamond necklace. At the bottom, a one-way plane ticket. From Charlotte to Miami. 2 passengers. Leland McPherson, Anya Petrova. He wasn't just stealing her money. He was leaving her behind. To take another woman. To live her life, with her mother's money. Rosie sat in the glow of the computer screen. Her face pale and still. 58 years old. No savings. No pension. No husband. Just fury. And as the monitor light flickered across her face, one thought formed clear as fire in her mind. He thought she'd never fight back. He was about to learn how wrong he was. Rosie sat in the dark office until her legs went numb. The glow of the computer screen lit up the room. It showed the picture of Anya, wearing her grandmother's necklace. The ticket to Miami was for next Tuesday. That was 6 days away. 6 days until he would walk out of her life, leaving her with nothing but debts and a broken heart. The old Rosie would have woken him up. She would have screamed and cried. She would have shown him the proof and demanded to know why. But that Rosie was gone. She died in this office chair, staring at a plane ticket. A new Rosie was born. This one was cold. This one was quiet. And this one was very, very angry. She looked at the desk. She saw a small silver USB drive in a cup of pens. Her hand moved slowly. She plugged it into the computer. She wasn't just a teacher. She was a planner. She ran the school bake sales, the field trips, and the class budgets. She knew how to make a list. She knew how to be organized. She began to copy every file. Not just the Anya folder. Everything. She copied the secret bank accounts he had in other states. She copied the letters he sent to her school, changing where her pension money went. She copied the fake signature he used on the house papers. She copied every email, every photo, every lie. She pulled the USB drive out and held it in her hand. It was small, but it felt heavy. It was her whole life. Her past and her future. She put the drive in her pocket. She logged off the computer. She wiped her fingerprints off the mouse and the keyboard. Then she went back upstairs. She slipped back into bed. The mattress moved. Leland grunted in his sleep and rolled over. His arm fell across her, heavy and warm. Rosie felt a wave of sickness so strong she thought she would throw up. This man, her husband, was a monster. He was a thief sleeping in her bed. She wanted to claw his eyes out. She wanted to run screaming into the night. But she didn't. She lay perfectly still. She breathed in and out slowly. She had to pretend. The most important part of her plan was to pretend. She had to be the same simple Rosie. He slept like a baby. He had no idea that the woman lying next to him was no longer his wife. She was his enemy. Have you ever had to smile at someone who was hurting you? Have you ever had to hide your tears so you could make a plan? It is the hardest thing in the world. Rosie has to do it. But she's not just doing it for herself. She's doing it for her mother. She's doing it for every person who was ever called too nice or too simple. She remembered when she first trusted him with her money. It was 20 years ago. "Oh, Rosie Pie," he had said, laughing his big, warm laugh. "You're so smart with books but not with numbers. Let me handle it. I'll make us rich." She was so happy. She thought he was taking care of her. She signed the papers. She gave him her small teacher's pension. She gave him her savings. She trusted him. He didn't just steal her money. He stole her trust. He stole the 35 years she had loved him. The sun came up. The alarm clock buzzed. 6 a.m. It was time to get up. It was time to make the coffee. It was time to face the man who had ruined her. Rosie got out of bed. She put on her robe. She went downstairs. She heard his footsteps behind her. "Morning, sweetheart," he said, yawning. He walked into the kitchen. He kissed her on the cheek. His lips were dry. Rosie felt her skin crawl. But she forced a smile. "Good morning, Lee," she said. Her voice was bright. "Coffee's almost ready. How did you sleep?" "Like a log," he said. He sat at the table and opened the newspaper. He did not look at her. He just saw the coffee mug she placed in front of him. He saw the plate of toast. He did not see her eyes. He did not see the cold fire burning behind them. He was so busy planning his new life. He never thought that she could be planning one too. While he read the news, Rosie's eyes scanned the counter. There was a pile of mail. Under a pizza menu she saw a thick, white envelope. It was from a bank she did not know. Ocean View Trust. The return address was not in America. It was in the Cayman Islands. Her heart beat faster. She picked up the envelope with the other mail. "Oh, just bills, bills, bills," she said, flipping through them. Leland just grunted. He was reading the sports page. Rosie's hand, the one holding the bank letter, moved. She slipped the letter into the pocket of her robe. It was right next to the USB drive. She had the folder from her mother's room. She had the files from his computer. And now she had this. She had the proof. But proof wasn't enough. She needed a plan. The moment Leland left for work, Rosie ran to the phone. She didn't call the police. The police would arrest him. But they wouldn't get her money back. They wouldn't get her house back. And they wouldn't get her life back. She needed someone else. Someone smart. Someone who knew how men like Leland thought. She dialed a number she had not called in a long time. She called her younger brother, David. David was a quiet man. He was an accountant. He had never liked Leland. "He's too smooth, Rosie," David had warned her years ago. "A man that's smooth is always hiding something." She wished she had listened. "David," she said, her voice low and fast. "I'm in trouble. And I need you to listen to me. And you cannot tell a single soul." David listened. He was quiet just like Rosie. She told him everything. The blue folder. The fake signature. The empty bank accounts. The house. The woman named Anya. Plane ticket. For a full minute David said nothing. Rosie thought the line was dead. "David. Are you there?" "I'm here," he said. His voice was cold. It was colder than her anger. "Rosie," he said. "I'm getting in my car. I'll be at your house in 2 hours. Do not talk to Leland. Do not call anyone else. And find a lawyer." "A lawyer," Rosie said, her voice shaking. "I don't have any money for a lawyer, David. He took it all." "You don't need money," David said. "Not for this one." "What do you mean?" Rosie asked. "There's a lawyer in the city. Her name is Martha Sullivan. She only handles divorces. Rich divorces. They call her Mad Dog Martha. And she has one rule. She doesn't get paid by the hour. She gets paid by how much she takes back from the husbands who cheat. And Rosie, she hates men like Leland. She's going to love you." Rosie hung up the phone. Her hand was shaking so hard she dropped the receiver. The house was too quiet. Every tick of the clock on the wall sounded like a hammer. 2 hours. David was coming in 2 hours. But Leland would be home in 7. She felt like a mouse trapped in a box, and the walls were getting closer. She grabbed the USB drive from her robe pocket. She clutched it so tightly, the metal edges dug into her palm. She needed to hide it. Not in her jewelry box. Not in the kitchen drawer. He would look there. She ran to her classroom bag, the one she took to school every day. She dropped the drive into an old bottle of aspirin. It was the perfect hiding place. He never, ever looked in her work bag. She paced the living room, her heart pounding. What if Leland came home early? What if he saw her on the phone with David? What if he checked his office and saw she had been on his computer? He would know. He would take the money and run. He would leave today. She felt a wave of panic. She had to act normal. She ran to the kitchen. She pulled out a cutting board. She started chopping vegetables for dinner. The same dinner she had planned to make before her life fell apart. She chopped the carrots. She chopped the onions. Each cut was a tiny piece of her anger. She would be the good wife. She would be the simple Rosie. Just for a few more days. Quiet, gray car pulled into the driveway. It wasn't Leland's big, shiny black truck. It was David's old Honda. Rosie's legs felt weak with relief. She ran to the door. David got out. He was a small man, thin, with glasses that always seemed a little crooked. He didn't look like a hero. He looked like an accountant. He walked up the steps and wrapped his arms around her. Rosie didn't cry. She was too cold to cry. "You did good, Rosie," he whispered. "You did the hardest part. You stayed quiet." He stepped inside. "Now," he said, his voice hard. "Show me everything." They sat at the kitchen table. The same table where Leland ate his breakfast, reading the paper, ignoring her. Rosie laid everything out. The blue folder with the fake signature. The bank letter from the Cayman Islands. Then, she got the aspirin bottle and gave David the USB drive. He plugged it into his own small laptop. His fingers flew across the keys. Rosie watched his face. With every file he opened, his jaw got tighter. He saw the empty pension account. He saw the new mortgages on the house. He saw the folder named Anya. He saw the plane ticket. When he was done, he closed the laptop. He didn't say, "I told you so," even though he had warned her about Leland for years. He just looked at her. "He's not just a thief," David said, his voice full of disgust. "He's sloppy." Rosie felt a tiny spark of confusion. "Sloppy? What do you mean?" "He fooled me for 35 years. David shook his head. "He used your birthday as a password. He left a bank statement out in the open. He thinks you're so simple that he didn't even try to hide it. That's not smart, Rosie. That's arrogant. And arrogant men make mistakes. We're going to use every single one." Rosie grabbed her coat. It was her old brown teacher's coat. "David, I don't look like someone who belongs in a lawyer's office. My hair is a mess." David grabbed her arm. His grip was surprisingly strong. "I don't care if you're wearing pajamas, Rosie. This isn't a tea party. This is a war. Let's go." They drove downtown. The tall glass buildings of Charlotte looked cold and scary. They looked like places Rosie didn't belong. David parked the car. "Now you let me do the talking at first," he said. "People like Martha Sullivan smell fear. Don't show her any." Martha Sullivan's office was on the 50th floor. The walls were white. The floor was black marble. There was no art. There were no fake plants. It was cold. The receptionist, a young woman with sharp red lipstick, looked at Rosie's coat. "Can I help you?" she asked. Her voice was bored. "We need to see Martha Sullivan," David said. "Do you have an appointment?" the woman asked, not looking up. "No," David said. He leaned in. "But you will tell her this. We have the McPherson file. It involves felony forgery, international bank fraud. And he gets on a plane in 6 days." The receptionist's eyes shot up. She picked up her phone. A door opened. A woman stood there. She was not tall, but she seemed to fill the whole room. She wore a sharp blue suit. Her hair was cut in a perfect straight line. Her eyes were like blue ice. This was Mad Dog Martha. She looked at Rosie. She looked at David. "You have 5 minutes," she said. Her voice was like gravel. She turned and walked into her office. Rosie and David followed her, like two small birds following a hawk. The office was huge. A glass wall looked down on the whole city. Rosie sat on a chair that felt like a rock. She wanted to cry. She wanted to explain. "My husband," he started. Martha held up one hand. Don't cry. Tears are for people who have already lost. I don't take cases I'm going to lose. Give me facts. Now." Rosie froze. Her words were gone. David stepped forward. He placed the blue folder on the huge glass desk. He placed the Cayman Islands letter next to it. He opened his laptop. Mr. Leland McPherson forged his mother-in-law's signature 3 days after a stroke. He's been moving his wife's pension to this offshore account for 10 years. And he's leaving the country with his mistress next Tuesday. Martha Sullivan put on a pair of black glasses. She looked at the fake signature. She looked at the bank numbers. Her face was a mask. She said nothing. Rosie's hope began to sink. This was a mistake. This woman was too big, too rich, too strong. He stole my grandmother's necklace," Rosie whispered. Martha didn't look up. Jewelry is hard to prove. Rosie felt a flash of anger. "He stole 35 years of my life," she said, her voice shaking. "He took my pension. My teacher's pension. I taught children for 35 years. And he left me with nothing." Martha stopped. She looked up. Her eyes fixed on Rosie. She saw the old coat. She saw the red, tired eyes. She saw the worn-out teacher. But she also saw the fire. "He stole from a teacher," Martha said, her voice low. She looked back at the papers. "He stole from a sick old woman in a nursing home." A smile, thin and sharp as a knife, touched her red lips. "Oh, he is sloppy," she said. "He thinks he's smart. Men like him always do. They think they've won." She stood up. "Mrs. McPherson, you have no money. You have no assets. Your life is gone. Is that correct?" Rosie nodded, a single tear rolling down her cheek. "Good," Martha said. "Because when we're done, he will have nothing. And you will have everything." Rosie left Martha's office feeling like she couldn't breathe. But under the fear there was something new. Tiny, hard piece of steel. Martha had given her a spine. David put his arm around her as they walked to the elevator. He looked proud. "You did it, Rosie." As the doors closed, Rosie looked at the cold marble floor. "What do I do now?" she whispered. "I have to go home. He'll be there." David's voice was low. "Martha gave you a job. It's the hardest job you will ever have. You have to go home. And be Rosie." "What does that mean?" she asked, her voice shaking. "He's leaving in 6 days. He's waiting for his money from the Cayman Islands to clear. He thinks he's a genius," David explained. "If he thinks you know anything. If you cry, if you yell, if you even look at him wrong. He will run. He'll take the money he has left and disappear. Martha needs him to feel safe. She needs him to stay right here until Tuesday." David looked at her. "You have to be sweeter than you have ever been. You have to be the loving, simple wife he thinks you are. Can you do that?" She walked into her house. The smell of the onions she had been chopping hours ago still hung in the air. Felt like a different lifetime. She looked at the clock on the wall. 5 p.m. Leland would be home in 30 minutes. Her heart hammered against her ribs. Be the wife he expects. What did he expect? He expected dinner. She took a deep breath. She hung up her old brown coat. She went to the kitchen and washed her hands. She pulled the pot roast out of the fridge. She was just Rosie. She was just making her husband dinner. She said it over and over in her head, a strange new prayer. She heard his heavy footsteps on the porch. The key turned in the lock. The door opened. "Hey, sweetheart. Smells good." His big, happy voice filled the house. Rosie's back was to him. Her hands gripped the kitchen counter so hard her knuckles turned white. "Turn around. Male. He is a fool. He is arrogant." He turned. She forced her lips into a shape that looked like a smile. "Hi, honey. Did you have a rough day at work?" It was the same greeting she had used for 35 years. He didn't even notice the ice in her eyes. He was already loosening his tie, throwing his keys on the table. "You have no idea," he grumbled, walking right past her. He sat at the kitchen table. He looked at the pile of mail. "Anything good today?" he asked, shuffling through the pizza menus and the power bill. Rosie's blood turned to ice. A letter. The letter from the Cayman Islands bank. David had it. Martha had a copy. But Leland didn't know that. He was looking for it. "Ha," he muttered. "I was expecting a bank statement." He looked up right at her. "Did you get the mail today, Rosie? Are you sure this is all of it?" This was the first test. Her first big lie. Rosie turned from the stove, wiping her hands on her apron. Her heart was a bird trapped in her chest. "Oh yes, honey. That's all of it. Just junk." And the water bill came. "It's very high this month, Lee." She made her voice sound a little worried, a little weak. It was the perfect distraction. Leland sighed, annoyed. "Rosie Pie, how many times do I have to tell you? Don't worry your pretty head about the bills. I'll handle it." He reached out and patted her hand. He was comforting her while he was robbing her blind. The rest of the dinner was a blur. Rosie served the pot roast. She asked about his day. She smiled and nodded. She felt like she was watching herself in a movie. She was playing the part of Rosie. And Leland. He was playing the part of the loving husband. He told her a boring story about his work. He complimented her cooking. He was so normal. He was so calm. He was a monster, and he was sitting at her table, eating her food in her house. The sickness rose in her throat. She wanted to scream, but she just smiled. "More potatoes, dear." After dinner, she was at the sink, washing the dishes. Her hands were red from the hot water. Leland was in the living room, watching a loud game show on TV. Then his cell phone rang. Rosie saw him look at the screen. A smile spread across his face. A real smile. A smile she hadn't seen in years. It was not the smile he gave her. "I've got to take this," he said, standing up. "It's about that big contract. I'll be in the office." Rosie just nodded. "Okay, honey. Don't work too late." He walked into his office and closed the door. But Rosie knew. It wasn't a contract. It was her. It was Anya. Rosie turned off the water. The house was quiet, except for the happy, stupid sounds from the game show. He was in there, talking to the woman who was wearing her grandmother's necklace. He was using her money to plan his new life. She dried her hands. She walked down the hallway. Her bare feet made no sound on the old wooden floor. She stood outside his office door. She could hear his voice. It was low and happy. He was laughing. He never laughed like that with her. She felt the old, familiar pain, the sting of being forgotten. But the new, cold anger was stronger. She looked at the doorknob. He was always so careful. He always locked it. Private business, honey. But tonight he was in a hurry. He was in a hurry to talk to his mistress. He hadn't turned the lock all the way. The door was open. Just a tiny crack. She held her breath. She leaned in. She could hear his words clearly. "I know, baby, I know. Just 6 more days. That's right. And we are on that beach. No, she's in the kitchen. She doesn't have a clue. She's washing dishes. You know, it's almost sad. She's too simple, Anya." Rosie's blood ran cold. Simple. He thought she was simple. But she turned to walk away, but her elbow bumped the small table in the hall. Picture frame wobbled. Clink. In the office, the laughing stopped. Rosie froze. She heard his office chair squeak. "Rosie," he called out. His voice was no longer happy. It was sharp. It was cold. "Rosie, are you out there?" Rosie's heart stopped. She was trapped. She heard the click of his office doorknob. He was coming out. There was no time to run, no time to hide. She had to become simple Rosie faster than she ever had before. She grabbed the crooked picture frame from the small hall table. She held it in her hands, pretending to fix the back of it. The door swung open. Leland stood there, his face a mask of suspicion. He looked at her. He looked at the door. He looked at her hands. "Rosie, what are you doing?" Her voice came out small and shaky. It was a perfect performance. "Oh, Oli, you scared me. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to bother you." She held up the picture frame. It was a photo of their son, Mark, at his high school graduation. This picture was crooked. I think I bumped it when I was dusting earlier. I was just trying to straighten it. She looked at him with wide, innocent eyes. She was just a wife tidying her home. She was not a spy. She was not an enemy. Leland stared at her for a long, terrible second. Rosie held her breath. She could feel the USB drive in her pocket, heavy as a stone. She could feel the lie on her lips. He watched her, and his hard, cold face slowly relaxed. He let out an annoyed sigh. "You're always fussing over something. Just leave it. I'm busy." He turned his back on her. He went back into his office and shut the door. This time Rosie heard the click of the lock. He had bought it. He had looked right at her and seen the simple, silly woman he wanted to see. He had no idea he had just been beaten. She walked back to the living room, her legs feeling like jelly. The bright, loud game show was still on TV. Happy people were jumping up and down, winning money. Rosie sank onto the sofa. The sound felt like an insult. She had to stay in this house for 5 more days. 5 more days of smiling. 5 more days of making coffee for the man who was planning to destroy her. She felt a wave of despair so strong it almost drowned her. How could she do this? She was a teacher. She was not a spy. She was not a fighter. Have you ever had to be strong when you felt so small? Have you ever had to hold back your tears because showing them would mean you lose? Rosie is in a prison. A prison made of her own memories. A prison guarded by the man she used to love. He thinks she's weak. He thinks she's simple. What he doesn't know is that the quietest people have the loudest minds. Her thoughts were interrupted by a vibration. It wasn't her real phone, the one on the kitchen counter. It was the cheap, plastic burner phone that David had given her. It was hidden deep in her purse. She waited. She listened. She could still hear Leland's low, angry voice from behind the locked office door. He was still on the phone. She ran to the guest bathroom, the one at the other end of the house. She locked the door. She turned on the noisy fan. She pulled out the burner phone. It was a text from David. "Martha needs the offshore account info. We have the letter. We need the password. He thinks he's a genius. The password will be something arrogant. You have to get it." How could she get a password for a secret bank account? She couldn't ask him. She couldn't break into his office again. He would be watching her now. She sat on the cold tile floor, the fan humming in her ears. She thought about Leland. She thought about the last 35 years. He was a man who loved to brag. He loved to tell stories about how smart he was. He loved to feel like the most powerful man in the room. He needed to feel smart. And he loved to feel smarter than her. She had an idea. Terrible, dangerous idea. She would have to use his own pride against him. She took a deep breath, flushed the toilet to make her trip seem real, and went back to the kitchen. She waited. She waited for an hour. The office door finally opened. Leland came out, his face red and stressed. "These idiots," he yelled to no one. "You try to move a little money, and the whole world wants a piece of you." He was in a bad mood. This was her chance. She had to be the dumb, sweet wife. "Oh dear," she said, looking up from the sink. "Are you having trouble with the bank? You look so stressed." He glared at her. "What do you know about it? It's just stupid paperwork." He grabbed a glass from the cabinet and filled it with water. Rosie walked over to him, her face full of fake worry. "I just hate when you're stressed. I remember when you set up that first big secret account years ago. The one you were so proud of. Remember? You told me it was your adventure fund." He stopped. He looked at her, surprised she remembered. A small, proud smile touched his lips. Yeah, I did that. Smartest thing I ever did. Rosie leaned against the counter, playing her part. I remember you were so mad. You kept forgetting the password. You had to write down the security question. It was so funny. She laughed, a light, silly laugh. What was it? What was your first pet's name? Leland snorted. He rolled his eyes. God, Rosie. You're so simple. Pet's name. That's for children. No. She had him. He wanted to brag. Oh, she said, looking confused. I guess I remembered it wrong. She turned back to the sink. She waited. 1 second. 2 seconds. The question, he said, his voice full of pride, was, what is the one thing I value most? Rosie's heart stopped. She gripped the edge of the sink. She turned to him, her eyes wide. Oh, and what was the answer? Me? She asked, her voice full of false hope. Or the kids? Leland laughed. It was a cold, mean sound. He laughed right in her face. You. No, Rosie. Don't be stupid. He leaned in, as if he was telling her a secret, but he was really just insulting her. The answer is power. One word. Power. You wouldn't understand. He finished his water, put the glass in the sink, and walked away. He left her standing there, her whole body shaking. He had just handed her the key. He had just given her the weapon she needed to destroy him. She ran back to the bathroom. Her fingers flew across the burner phone's keypad. She texted David. Have it. Question. What is the one thing I value most? Answer. Power. She stared at the phone, waiting. A minute later it buzzed. It was David. Martha's in. We're in, Rosie. We see everything. My God. Rosie waited. My God, what? He texted back. The reply came. It made her blood run cold. Rosie, it's worse than we thought. He has a file. He's not just leaving you. He's planning to destroy you. He has a file full of lies. He's going to tell the police that you have been stealing from your mother. He's going to have you arrested. Rosie's hand flew to her mouth, but she made no sound. The cheap phone felt heavy in her hand. Arrested. He was going to have her arrested. He wasn't just leaving her with nothing. He was planning to put her in a cage. He was going to tell the police that she was the one who stole from her own mother. He was going to let her rot in jail while he was on a beach with Anya, spending her mother's money. The noisy fan in the bathroom whirred, but all Rosie could hear was the blood roaring in her ears. She felt the cold tile floor under her feet. She thought she was going to be sick. The old Rosie would have fainted. She would have crumpled. But this was not the old Rosie. The sickness passed. The fear turned into something else. It turned into a cold, quiet, killing rage. This was not a divorce. This was not about money. This was about her life. She looked at her reflection in the dark bathroom mirror. She saw the face of a tired 58-year-old teacher. But her eyes were new. They were the eyes of a soldier. She typed back to David. Her fingers were steady. He won't win. Tell Martha he just made a mistake. He's made me angry. A new text came back from David. Martha says good. Now we have him. But we need more. The recording of power gets us into the bank. But the plan to frame you is his word against yours. We need to catch him. We need proof he is the one signing your mother's name. Not just the old one. We need him to do it again. Rosie's blood ran cold. How? She typed. David's reply was simple. He's arrogant. He's sloppy. He's not done stealing. He will make one more move. Your job is to find out what it is. She flushed the toilet. She ran the water. She opened the door. She walked back into the living room. Leland was still on the sofa watching TV. He looked up when she came in. His eyes were cold. You okay, Rosie? You were in there a long time. You look pale. She had to be the best actress in the world. She forced a weak, trembling smile. Oh, it's just a headache, Lee. I think I'm just so tired lately. She put the back of her hand to her forehead, like a sad, weak woman. I think I'll just go to bed. He patted the cushion next to him. His smile was fake. It didn't reach his eyes. Come sit for a minute. You're always running around. Rosie's skin crawled. She wanted to run. But she sat. She sat down next to the man who was planning to send her to prison. He put his arm around her. Felt heavy like a chain. He pulled her close. You just need a vacation, Rosie Pye. Soon, he said. All this stress will be over. I promise. She could smell his aftershave. The smell she used to love. Now it smelled like poison. This is the performance of her life. She is sitting in the arms of her own jailer. He is promising her peace, while he is sharpening the knife. What would you do? Could you smile at the person who was destroying you? Could you sit there, knowing they were planning to bury you alive? Rosie has to. She has no choice. Because she is no longer just fighting for her money. She is fighting for her freedom. She leaned her head on his shoulder. Her body was stiff, but she hoped he couldn't tell. Lee, she whispered. Her voice was small and sleepy. I was thinking about Mom. She felt the muscle in his arm tighten. Just a little. But she felt it. What about her? He asked. His voice was casual. Too casual. It's just all that paperwork. I stopped by the nursing home today. The director gave me a pile of new forms. Release of assets or something. I didn't understand them. She let her voice tremble. I put them on your desk. I'm so lucky you handle all that. I'd be so lost. He patted her head. He was proud. He loved that she was lost. He loved that she was simple. See. Told you, Rosie Pye. Don't you worry your pretty head about it. Just paperwork. I'll take care of it tomorrow. It's the last of it. He had taken the bait. He was going to sign the new forms. He was going to forge her mother's name again. He had just told her his plan. You're a good man, Leland, she whispered. She had to fight not to choke on the words. That night she lay in bed. 1 a.m. She was pretending to be asleep. She was breathing deep and slow. Beside her, Leland's phone vibrated on the nightstand. It was a soft, buzzing sound. He thought she was asleep. He always thought she was asleep. He picked up the phone. Rosie watched him through her eyelashes. He slipped out of bed. He didn't go to his office. He just went into their bathroom and closed the door. He was getting careless. He was getting sloppy. He thought he had already won. Rosie slipped out of bed. The floor was cold. She crept to the bathroom door. She could hear his voice. He was whispering. I know, baby. You know. Just a few more days. She's asleep. She's always asleep. This was it. Martha had given her a tiny digital recorder, the size of a pen cap. He will brag, Martha had said. They always brag. Rosie held the recorder up to the thin wooden door. She pressed the button. Her hand was shaking, but she held it steady. It's all set, Anya, he whispered into the phone. I moved the last of the old woman's money. And the house. The papers are all filed. It's clean. He laughed. A low, ugly laugh. And the best part, if anyone does ask questions, it all points right back to her. Her name is on the visiting logs every day. She's been so worried about her mom's money. Sad, really. She's going to look so guilty. Rosie felt the blood drain from her face. He was bragging. He was bragging about framing her. She got it. She had his voice. She had his confession. She started to pull the recorder back. But his next words froze her to the spot. I just have one last thing to do. I have to go to the nursing home in the morning. They need a final signature on the release of assets form. He chuckled again. I'll just sign it for her just like the first time. Then I'm all yours. I'll see you in Miami, baby. He was going to do it again. He was going back to the scene of the crime. And he had just told her exactly when. He was going in the morning. Rosie stood in the dark hall for a full minute. The recorder was hot in her hand. She had his voice. She had his plan. He was going to the nursing home in the morning to sign another fake paper. He was going to frame her. She crept back to their bedroom. She slid into the bed. The sheets were still warm from his body. She lay on her back, staring at the ceiling. She did not sleep. She listened to him snore. It was the sound of a man who believed he was safe. A man who believed he had won. She just had to wait for the sun to come up. At 4 a.m., when the night was at its darkest, she got up. She took the burner phone, the tiny recorder, and the original blue folder with the first forgery. She went to the garage. She got in her old, cold car. She turned the key. The sound was loud in the silent morning. She prayed he wouldn't wake up. She backed out of the driveway and drove. She drove to a dark, all-night diner. He parked in the back. A minute later, David's old Honda pulled up next to her. He got in her car. His face was pale. His glasses were crooked. He looked like a scared accountant. But his eyes were hard. "You got it," he whispered. Rosie's hand was shaking. She handed him the tiny recorder. "He's bragging, David. He's planning to have me arrested. He's going to say I did it." She watched her brother's face as he put a small earphone in his ear and pressed play. He listened. His face went from pale to white. Then it went from white to red. He closed his eyes. That animal. "He's going this morning, David," Rosie said, her voice fast. "He said he has to sign the last form. The release of assets." David took a deep breath. He pulled out his own burner phone. "Martha's been waiting." "This is it, Rosie." He made the call. "I have it," he said. "It's a full confession. And he's going back to the home this morning to sign again." Rosie heard Martha's voice, small and scratchy over the phone. "Good. The wolf is walking back to the trap." "What's the trap?" Rosie asked. Martha's voice was clear. "He's going to sign a paper, Rosie. But it's not going to be the nursing home's form. It's going to be my form. David is at his office printer right now. He's printing a full legal confession. It lists the offshore account numbers. It lists the amounts. It says he, Leland McPherson, admits to forgery and fraud. And at the bottom it says he agrees to give everything back to you. And he is going to sign it." Rosie's head was spinning. But he'll read it. He'll see it's not the right form." "No, he won't," David said, his voice cold. "He's in a hurry. He's arrogant. He's thinking about Anya in Miami. He won't read it. He'll just see a signature line at the bottom of a pile of papers." He looked at Rosie. "But I have to switch the papers. I have to get to the nursing home director, Mrs. Gable, before he does. I have to convince her to help us. She's the key." Rosie's heart sank. "She'll never do it, David. She likes Leland. He's been so charming. He brings her donuts. She'll call him and warn him." David held up the small recorder. "She will," he said. "She's a good person. And when she hears this, when she hears him bragging about stealing from a sick old woman under her own roof, she will be just as angry as we are." He took the blue folder. He took the recorder. He was holding all her proof. "Go home, Rosie," he said. "Be the wife. You have the hardest job of all." She drove home. The sun was just starting to turn the sky gray. He felt sick. She slipped back into the house. It was 5:45 a.m. She went to the kitchen. She started to make the coffee. She was just Rosie. She was just a wife making coffee. 6 a.m. The alarm went off upstairs. She heard his feet hit the floor. She heard him whistling in the shower. He was happy. He was thinking about his new life. He had no idea his old one was about to end. He came into the kitchen wrapped in a towel. "Morning, sweetheart," he boomed. He kissed her cheek. "I'm in a hurry today. Big meetings." He poured his coffee. "Oh, Lee," Rosie said. Her voice was light and airy. "I have to run to the grocery store. But my car." It was making that funny clicking sound again. "I'm scared to take it." She looked at him, her eyes wide with fake fear. Could you wait? Just until 9 o'clock. Just in case I need you to jump the battery. Please. Leland let out a long, angry sigh. He looked at the clock. He was annoyed by his simple wife's simple problems. Rosie, I really don't have time. Please, Lee. I'll be so fast. I would feel so much safer knowing you were here. Just until 9 o'clock. He rolled his eyes. Fine, 9 o'clock. But that's it. I have to be downtown by 10 o'clock. He didn't know his meeting wasn't downtown. It was at Sunny Pines nursing home. And David was already there. David was in Mrs. Gable's office. He was getting ready to press play. It was 8 a.m. Sunny Pines nursing home was quiet, except for the sound of breakfast carts. David sat in a hard plastic chair. He was in Mrs. Gable's office. She was a tall, large woman with gray hair pulled into a tight bun. She looked like a high school principal. She had a half-eaten donut on her desk. She did not look happy. Mr. Reed, she said, her voice sharp. You told my nurse this was an emergency. I hope you are not wasting my time. Your sister's payments are all perfectly up to date, thanks to Mr. McPherson. David's hands were sweating. This woman was the key. If she said no, the whole plan fell apart. Mrs. Gable, I am here because Mr. McPherson is not who you think he is. He has been stealing from my mother. He forged her name on a power of attorney, 3 days after her stroke. Mrs. Gable's eyes went cold. She stood up. That is the most serious accusation you can make. Mr. McPherson has been a saint. He is kind to my staff. He handles all of Evelyn's difficult paperwork. I will not have you come in here and tell these lies. Back at the house, Rosie was putting eggs on a plate. Her hands were moving, but her mind was at Sunny Pines. She could feel the clock on the wall. Each sound was a hammer. 8:15 a.m. Leland walked into the kitchen. He was wearing his best suit. A dark blue one that made him look powerful. He looked like a man who ran the world. He was in a hurry. Rosie, are you ready to go? I need to get downtown. He grabbed the coffee pot and poured a cup. His movements fast and angry. Oh, almost dear, Rosie said. Her voice was light and airy, like she had no cares in the world. I just need to eat my eggs. And then I have to make my grocery list. You know how I am, Lee. If I don't write it down, I'll forget the milk. She was playing the part. She was the simple, annoying wife. The woman he couldn't wait to leave. He let out a long, loud breath. A list. You're making a list. Rosie, I have $1 million deal on the line. Just go. He was looking at his watch. He was a bull, and her list was the red flag. He thinks she is a fool. He thinks her list is just another reason he has to leave her. He has no idea that her list is a weapon. It is a shield. It is the very thing keeping him in this house while the trap is being set. She is not a mouse, hiding from the snake. She is the trap. Back in Mrs. Gable's office, David looked at the angry woman. Mrs. Gable, he didn't just fool my sister. He fooled you. And he's been bragging about it. He's been using your facility as his personal bank. The woman's face turned red. Get out, she said. David shook his head. No, not until you listen. He pulled the tiny recorder from his pocket. This was recorded last night. This is Leland's voice. Please. He pressed the play button. The room was silent. And then Leland's voice filled the office. It was low and smooth and full of pride. The old woman's money. I'll just sign it for her just like the first time. Sad, really. She's going to look so guilty. Mrs. Gable sat down. Her face went from red to a sick, pale white. She looked at the half-eaten donut on her desk. The donut he had probably brought her. Her hands began to shake. He had not just broken the law. He had made a fool of her. At the house, it was 8:50 a.m. Rosie was slowly, so slowly wiping the counter. Leland was pacing the kitchen. Rosie, that's it. I am leaving. If your car doesn't start, you can call a tow truck. I am done. He grabbed his keys. He was yelling. Just as he turned to the door, his phone rang. It was not his work phone. It was his new secret phone. Played a little piece of a song. A song Rosie had never heard. It was Anya's ringtone. He stopped. He looked at the phone. He looked at Rosie, who was staring at him with wide, confused eyes. He couldn't answer it in front of her. I'll be right back, he growled. He walked into the living room, turning his back to her. Hey, he said. His voice changed. It was low and sweet like honey. No, baby, I'm just leaving now. Yeah, she's being a pain. Rosie stood at the sink. 9 a.m. Her job was done. She had held him. She had kept the lion in his cage for exactly long enough. Mrs. Gable's eyes were like chips of ice. She was not a kind old woman anymore. She was a general. Mr. Reed, she said, her voice flat. What are these papers? David pulled the thick stack of papers from his briefcase. This is a full legal confession. Printed by our lawyer. It lists the offshore accounts. It admits to the forgery. And it gives everything. The house, the pension, the savings. Back to my sister. We need him to sign this. He'll read it, she said. He won't, David said. He's arrogant. He'll just see the pile of papers he's expecting. He'll sign. Mrs. Gable took the papers. She walked over to her shredder. She took the real nursing home forms and fed them into the machine. They were gone. She put Martha's papers on a clipboard. She put a small yellow sticky note on the last page. It just said, "Sign here." She looked at David. He ate my donuts, she said, her voice full of ice. And he used my residence. He will sign. Leland walked back into the kitchen. He was smiling. His phone call with Anya had made him happy. He was thinking about the beach. I'm leaving, he said. He didn't even look at her. Okay, dear, Rosie whispered. She looked small. She looked defeated. I hope your meeting goes well. He grabbed his briefcase. He walked out the front door. He whistled as he got into his big black truck. He was on his way to his meeting. He was on his way to sign his life away. The second his truck turned the corner, Rosie's face changed. The simple wife was gone. She pulled out the burner phone. She sent a text to David. It had 3 words. He's on his way. Leland McPherson whistled as he pulled his big truck into the visitor spot at Sunny Pines. The sun was shining. It was 9:15 a.m. In his pocket, his phone was warm from Anya's last text. Counting the minutes. He felt like a king. He grabbed the small pink box of donuts from the passenger seat. A little gift for Mrs. Gable. It was important to keep the staff happy. He had this one last annoying paper to sign, and then he was free. He was finally free of his old, boring life. He walked into the building, a big smile on his face. Rosie was sitting at her kitchen table. Her hands were folded on top of the burner phone. It was 9:16 a.m. The house was so quiet she could hear the refrigerator hum. It was the loudest sound in the world. She had held him. She had done her part. Now it was out of her hands. It was up to David and Mrs. Gable. What if he reads the papers? She thought. What if he sees the trap? He would run. He would get in his truck and drive straight to the airport. He would be gone forever. She felt her chest get tight. She couldn't breathe. Inside Mrs. Gable's office, David was hidden. He was standing in her small private bathroom, the door open just a crack. He could see his own reflection in a small mirror. He looked pale and sick. Mrs. Gable was at her desk. She looked like she was carved from ice. She heard Leland's heavy, happy footsteps. The door opened. Good morning, Leland boomed. He placed the pink box on her desk. Brought your favorites. Now I am in a terrible hurry. I've got a meeting downtown I'm already late for. Just give me those forms. Mrs. Gable did not smile. She did not look at the donuts. Mr. McPherson, she said. Her voice was flat. Thank you for coming in. We just have the final release forms for your mother-in-law's assets. She slid the clipboard across the desk. It was a thick stack of papers. On top was a simple, boring cover sheet. Underneath, hidden, was Martha's confession. The confession that would give Rosie everything back. David held his breath in the bathroom. This was it. Leland sighed, annoyed. He didn't even sit down. Always more paper, he grumbled. He picked up the clipboard. He was in a hurry. He was thinking about Anya. He was thinking about the beach. He flipped past the cover sheet. He saw pages and pages of small black words. Legal words. He rolled his eyes. Who had time to read this junk? He flipped straight to the back, looking for the yellow sticky note. He saw it. Sign here. He pulled his heavy, expensive gold pen from his suit pocket. Back at the house, the burner phone buzzed. Rosie screamed, a small, tiny sound. She fumbled for the phone. It was a text from David. One word. Waiting. Rosie's blood ran cold. Waiting. What did that mean? Why was he waiting? Had something gone wrong? Had Leland seen it? She stood up. The room was spinning. She had to get to the phone. She had to call David. She had to warn him. But she knew she couldn't. All she could do was wait. And the waiting was torture. Leland uncapped his pen. The tip hovered over the paper. He was about to sign his life away. But then he stopped. He looked up. He squinted at the papers. This is a lot more paper than last time, Mrs. Gable. What is all this? His voice was no longer happy. It was sharp, suspicious. In the bathroom, David's heart stopped. He had seen it. The plan was dead. Leland was going to walk. But Mrs. Gable did not panic. She was a general. She looked at him, her eyes cold. It's the final transfer, Mr. McPherson. It's the new federal requirement for releasing assets to offshore accounts. Our lawyers insisted on the extra paperwork. She said the word offshore with a small, knowing look. Leland's suspicion vanished. It was replaced by pride. Of course it was complicated. He was complicated. He was a big international money man. He laughed. Lawyers, he said, shaking his head. They get paid by the page. He pressed the pen to the paper. He signed his name with a big, strong signature. Leland McPherson. He was done. He capped his pen. He tossed the clipboard onto her desk. There. We're all done. I'm late. Send my best to Evelyn. He didn't even look at her. He turned and walked out of the office. He was whistling again. He was on his way to Miami. He was on his way to Anya. He was free. The second his footsteps faded, David stumbled out of the bathroom. He was white as a ghost. Mrs. Gable quickly locked her office door. David grabbed the clipboard. He stared at the signature. It was real. It was legal. It was done. He sent a text to Rosie. We got it. At her house, Rosie saw the text. Her legs gave out. She sank to the floor, her body shaking with relief. She cried. She finally cried. But at Sunny Pines, Leland McPherson was walking to his truck. He clicked the button to unlock it. Just as he reached for the door, a plain black sedan pulled up, blocking him in. The car had no markings. Two large men in dark suits got out. They were not police. They were not from Martha. And they were walking right toward him. Leland McPherson smiled at the two men in dark suits. He was in a hurry. Can I help you, gentlemen? The shorter man, the one with eyes like a shark, did not smile back. Mr. Leland McPherson, you have been a very busy man. His voice was flat and cold. Leland's smile faded. A small knot of fear tightened in his stomach. I'm sorry I'm late for a flight. He tried to step around them. The tall man moved, blocking him. We are from Ocean View Trust, the short man said. The blood drained from Leland's face. My bank, he stammered. You have my money. The man laughed. It was a short, ugly sound like two rocks hitting each other. You thought you were a client. You are a small, stupid man, Mr. McPherson. You were washing money for us. The money you stole from your wife. That was our money you were hiding. And we just heard you signed a paper, confessing to stealing all of it. What? Leland's mind was spinning. He couldn't breathe. No. That's my family's money. The tall man spoke for the first time. His voice was like gravel. Give me the keys. Phone. The wallet. Leland was frozen. No. I have a flight. I have to go. The tall man grabbed Leland's wrist. Leland yelped in pain. With his other hand, the man took his truck keys. He took his wallet. He took the new phone with all of Anya's texts. He looked at it, then snapped it in half with one hand. You made a mess, the short man said, his voice quiet. You stole from us. And then you wrote it all down. You put our bank's name on a legal paper. You have made us very unhappy. Leland was shaking. This was not a divorce. This was not Martha. This was not the police. This was something much, much worse. Please, he whispered, his big voice gone. It was my wife. She made me. The man smiled. Your wife. Your wife is smart. You're just a loud, sloppy thief. Goodbye, Mr. McPherson. You have nothing. 3 days later. Rosie was in Martha Sullivan's office. The sun was streaming through the giant glass window. It was the first time Rosie felt warm. Martha slid a folder across the desk. It's done, Martha said. Her voice was almost soft. The confession was perfect. And the bank in the Cayman Islands. They were very happy to return all the money to avoid a federal investigation. They sent everything. To the last penny. They said Mr. McPherson had closed his account. Rosie opened the folder. She looked at the paper. It was a bank statement. Her name, Rosie McPherson, was at the top. She saw the numbers. Her mother's savings. Her pension. The money from the house. It was all there. He signed it, Rosie whispered. He signed it all away. Yes, he did, Martha said. He was in such a hurry to get to his new life. He gave you back your old one. Your house is in your name. You are free, Rosie. You are safe. She got it. She got it all back. Rosie's fight is over. But we know there are thousands of other Rosies out there. People who are still fighting. People who feel lost, betrayed, and too simple to win. If this story touched your heart, if you believe that good people deserve to win, please take 1 second, like this video so others can find it. Share it so their story can be heard. And please subscribe to our channel. Tells us you want more stories of justice. Tells us you believe in fighting back. The next day, Rosie went to Sunny Pines. But she wasn't just visiting. She was packing. She was moving her mother. She took her to a new place. A real home called The Willows, with big windows and a garden. Her mother, Evelyn, was sitting up in her new, clean bed. The stroke had taken her voice. But Rosie held her hand. Mom, Rosie whispered, her voice thick with tears. It's over. He's gone. Got your money back. We're safe. Evelyn couldn't speak. But she squeezed her daughter's hand. 3 times. Love you. What happened to Leland? He was not arrested. That would have been too easy. He just disappeared. The men in the black car took him. They took his name. They took his pride. The last time anyone saw him, he was not in Miami. He was 1,000 miles away, washing dishes in the back of a dark, greasy diner. His hands were red and sore. He looked old. He looked tired. He looked simple. And every time a car door slammed, he jumped. Rosie was in her house. The sun was shining. She had a big black trash bag. She was filling it with Leland's things. His expensive suits. His golf shoes. His empty bottles of aftershave. At the bottom of a drawer, she found a picture of Anya, the one from the beach, wearing her grandmother's necklace. Rosie looked at the young, smiling woman. Rosie felt nothing. No anger. No jealousy. Just pity. She dropped the photo in the trash. She tied up the bag. She walked into her kitchen, poured a cup of coffee, and sat at her table. For the first time in 35 years, the house was quiet. And so was her heart. She was home.